Hey everyone, it's Linda from Colourwerx Designs, and welcome into the first week of our 6th quilt along, which is called Feelin Groovy. This is the quilt we're going to be making right here, and it's a super fun and fabulous quilt. It's a 3-technique-in-1 quilt, so it's kind of like a skill builder quilt. We're going to be learning easy slash and sew liberated piecing for the background of the swirls. We're going to be learning easy machine applique when we put those swirls on, and then we're going to be learning a bit of paper piecing or foundation piecing when we do the spiky black and white border. So let's review the 5-week schedule. Week 1, this week, is all about gathering your pattern and getting your materials together. Week 2 is all about slashing and sewing the liberated squares for the background of the swirls. Week 3 is easy machine applique when we apply those swirls and applique stitch around them. Week 4 is easy paper piecing or foundation piecing when we work on that black and white pieced border. And then week 5, we'll be putting it all together and finishing it up. So let's get started. This is week 1 where we're going to gather our pattern and get our materials together. You're going to need your pattern, which is the Feelin Groovy pattern, available from the Colourwerx shop. We have this in PDF or paper format, and right now it's 20% off during the quilt along. So go ahead and get that, as it has your materials list as well as all the pattern shapes that you'll need for the swirls and for the spiky paper piece border. When you go to choose your fabrics for this, it's certainly a great stash buster. But if you're buying fabrics, it may seem a little bit overwhelming. But I have a tip. Start with color groups. And as you look through the quilt, you're going to see that there are color groups that repeat. Here you can see that we have a yellow color group, a pink color group, green, a orange color group, and then finally over here, a blue color group, and those are the backgrounds. The swirls are simply cut from one of the fabrics that are used in the color groupings. So let's start there. Start by deciding which color groups you want to use. I'm going to use a blue color group, and I'm going to choose 4 fabrics to go in each of these color groups. I'm going to do a green color group. I'm going to do a yellow color group, and it's actually yellowy orange. I'm going to do a pink color group. And then finally, I'm going to add in a purple color group. Here I've got my 5 color groups with 4 fabrics for a total of 20 fabrics together. If I'm going out to the quilt store, I'm going to need to buy either 1/3 of a yard or a fat quarter of each one of these fabrics in order to make the quilt that's on the front cover. If I'm rating my stash, I'm going to cut 1 11-inch square, which is for the slash and sew background, and 1 9-inch square for the swirl, which is going to be appliqued on in week 3. So next, let's describe what we need to do for the black and white border. Again, this can be overwhelming when you look at it on the pattern photo, but it really isn't. I've rated my stash of black and whites, and I've pulled out scraps, fat quarters, quarter-yard cuts of all the black and whites I think I'd like to use for the border. If you're shopping for this fabric at your local quilt shop, you're going to want to probably choose a nice selection of 10 to 12 fat quarters for the quilt that's on the front. Once you've decided that, you're good to go, and we're going to get to this in week number 4. Some other materials that you're going to need to gather as we go through this, you're going to need about 3 yards of a fusible adhesive web. I like the Heat and Bond light variety. And then you'll need some stabilizer. Not a fusible stabilizer, but something that will keep your decorative stitching around your swirls tight and not sinking into your materials. This is the Sulky iron-on tearaway stabilizer, which I actually like, but any kind of decorative embroidery stitch stabilizer will work that you might have at home. You'll need about 3 yards of that as well. So whenever we do a quilt along, I always love to make the quilt alongside you guys. And so I want to show you what I'm going to be doing. We'll go down to the cutting board. I'm going to be making a smaller baby size version of this quilt. This is 9 blocks, and it's going to measure about 40 inches by 40 inches. And what I did is I rated my Moda Fabric Grunge stash. So I want to show you the fabrics that I selected. I'm going to do an eclectic collection of greens. This is going to be for my slash and sew background. Blues, and these are 11-inch squares again. Pinks and reds and oranges. And again, purples. I only need about 16 squares to do that baby size quilt. You could get away with 12 for the background, but you won't get the variety that you'll see here. So I'm going to do 16. I'm going to make more squares than I actually need, and I'm going to throw some away when I get done with the quilt. For my swirls, I did another eclectic collection of Moda Grunge from my stash. And so I cut many more than I needed. And again, if you have a piece of scrap where the corner's missing, that is perfectly okay to use that for the swirl, because we're going to applique and cut this shape out. And I just gathered a variety of colors and choices for myself so that when I get the slash and sew squares done and we're ready with week 3 to put those swirls on, I'm going to have lots of choices. I also found this incredibly fun striped border in my stash, and I'm going to think about using that for the binding as well. That's it for week number 1. So make sure you go over to Colourwerx.com, get your pattern, and also start gathering all your materials together. You're also going to need, if you're doing the lap size quilt that's on the front of the cover, 20 11-inch squares to start for next week. Or if you're doing the baby size version, which is what I'm doing, which is 40 inches by 40 inches, you're going to need anywhere from 12 to 16 11-inch squares. Until then, we'll see you next week, and happy quilting, everybody.